Hello, happy Wednesday. I'm Beverly Hosford. I'm here with my colleague and friend Erin Nitschke, and we are on the National Federation of Professional Trainers Facebook page, broadcasting live so that you can interact with us and share your thoughts and whatnot. Unless you're watching this afterwards on YouTube, then you can always go back to the NFPT Facebook page and add comments if you want, or you can share your thoughts on YouTube. This is episode 59 of NFPT Live, and we are talking about how long it takes to become a successful trainer today. So there's there's that first thought, the seed of I want to become a trainer, and then there's the whole getting certified, and then there's finding a job, and then there's getting enough clients to tickle your taste buds, and then there's getting enough clients to actually make a living. So we're going to run through some trainer stories today from the NFPT family, and then we're going to give you some of our own tips about how long does it take, whether you're a trainer who's out there just not making as much money as you want, or if you're someone who's considering being a trainer, this episode is for you. And if you know someone like that, please share it with them. And that being said, I'm going to go ahead and do a quick share here on Facebook and Twitter. How are you today, Erin?
I'm good. Happy Wednesday. It's a nice day here. The snow is melting. Yay.
Yes, here too. Erin's in Wyoming and I am in Montana. And yeah, I'm loving it. It's gorgeous. We got a huge snowstorm this weekend, and now I love the dance that it does here. I mean, you have to love it because you don't have a choice. So
yeah, you either join it or it beats you to death. It depends on the year how it works for me. Sometimes I just don't leave my house. I'm like, ugh, it's too much snow. I don't want to go anywhere.
If you're joining us, feel free to give us your weather update. We always love hearing from our friends around the country. And so let's talk a little bit about a few of the trainers that gave us their rundown. So Chris Collins told us it took him a couple months to get certified, and then it took about 8 months to get a sustainable amount of clients. But then when he had his first child, he kind of changed from training into managing a corporate gym. So he's in a different boat now. And then Michael Rogers said it took him 3 months to get certified, and he had a solid client base within 2 years. So that's a pretty big difference there, 8 months versus 2 years. Roderick Benman said it took 8 months to get certified. He's had a steady clientele for over 5 years now. He's not accepting any more clients. So it doesn't totally answer our question about how long it took, but sounds like he's doing well. So Caleb Powell said 9 months from what he remembers, took about a year to get a sustainable amount. So we are seeing so far a 6 month to 2 year range. Michelle Rogers said she got her first cert 16 years ago. It took about 2 months. In about 4 months, she made a full-time transition to training and had a full client load in about 6 months. Okay, so we're still seeing that 6 month theme. Charles DeFrancesco says took about 2 months to get his first cert, about 2 years to get over 20 sessions a week. And then at year 3, he started his own business, and then it took another 2 years to get up to 40 sessions a week. So there we go, almost 5 years to kind of really get his own thing going if you're someone that wants to run your own gym. And he said that the guys that work for him are usually busy in 1 year doing 20 sessions a week. So there's that one, we're seeing this 1 year average, I think. And I got 2 more for you. Sean Gogarty, 1 year intensive program at UCSD. And he had 10 to 12 clients in the first month, sustainable full-time clientele within 6 months. And Tim Kelly said that he had clients quickly, and then his life moved around the country. So usually within 30 days of being in a new club, I was billing 25 hours a week. Wow. And he's from Texas. And Sean was from California. Charles is in New York. Michelle is in Richmond, Virginia. Caleb didn't tell us. Roderick Benman, Oklahoma City. Michael is in Flagstaff. And Chris is in Glasgow, Connecticut. And so Erin and I talked a little bit before the show about demographic areas going to really play in. It seems like a lot of these people do live in bigger cities. I don't know much about Glasgow, Connecticut, but certainly the other ones are pretty big cities.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it might be a totally different story if you live even where Erin lives in Sheridan, Wyoming.
Yeah, it's a little bit teeny tiny. So yeah, I think I think the average, with getting certified, it's going to vary. I mean, how much time do you have to put into study? What's your previous background like? If you're coming from an educational background that's got some exercise science, it's not going to take you much time at all to study and get your cert. I would say a couple months, if that, depending on your base knowledge. But I teach in a personal training program and an exercise science program for a community college, and our curriculum, it's a 2-year curriculum. Not that it could take them 2 years to do it, but we devote our curriculum so that they are being not only prepared to sit for a nationally accredited exam, but that they're prepared in some ways to tackle the profession. It's hard to get that in 2 years, but we do focus it on that. So it's not just teaching it to the test. So I think your success in gaining that certification is going to vary greatly based on how much time you're willing to put into it. To be able to study, and then of course to take the exam, you chances are have to go somewhere to take that exam. There are testing sites all over the country, and most tests are online now unless there's a practical component to it. So you have to go to a proctored testing site to do it. So if you live in the sticks, i.e. Wyoming, you're going to have to get someplace that's got a testing center, and usually that's going to be an approved community college or university.
Certainly. Yeah, it's all, like you said, comes down to the amount of time. And I'll be totally honest, first time I took the test, I was in college. I think I was in my senior year studying exercise science, and I did not pass it because I didn't really devote the time to studying the material. I just kind of assumed that my education would fuel that, but it's totally different what you learn sometimes in an exercise science program, especially back then. They just threw, I mean, we're talking 2000, so 18 years ago, they just threw us in with the pre-med students. So I was learning chemistry, and I wasn't learning anything about program design. I think I had 3 classes that were catered towards fitness. So I assumed that, I have a 4-year degree, I'm going to be able to just take this test. No, not the case. The tests, personal training tests, have very specific program designs you need to learn, and just very specific information that's not necessarily. And nowadays, it's probably covered more in the programming. So much has changed in the last 15 years, but it does come down to how much time you devote. And then the second time I took it, I was in my master's degree. I studied, and it was pretty easy to pass as long as you just learn all those numbers. So I think it just, like those folks are saying, a couple months, but you could be in a 2-year program like Erin mentioned, and you could take the test anytime during that program as long as you study for the cert that you're trying to achieve, and not just learning whatever XYZ information about fitness, because each certification company has some nuances that are different. They mostly based off of ACSM's guidelines, the American College of Sports Medicine, which is our gold standard, but they do have little differences between the way they design programs and whatnot. And then getting your clientele going, like, it really can be as slow or as fast as you want, pending, again, where you live and what kind of gym you join up with. I think for me, I remember I had a 6 a.m. client and a 6 p.m. client when I started. So brutal. And 3 times a week. And I had that forever. And then I eventually got like a 7 a.m. client. And then I eventually filled in some other gaps. And I think it took me about a year to really get to where I wanted to be. But I was in a gym that had a lot of referrals, and like a trainer quit while I was working there. So I took on some of their clients. And so surrounding yourself in a place where there's a lot of opportunity will help you get on your feet faster, for sure.
Definitely. I like your point about not necessarily relying on your education. Because exercise science, it's such a broad scope as well. It does, in a lot of really wonderful ways, prepare you for the biomechanics of it, the study of human movement. All of that is very pertinent. But when it comes to specific organizations, they do have their little nuances. Like one example, the ACE integrated fitness training model. That's very ACE specific. You're not going to see that in another organization. There's a lot of different organizations like that have just a slightly different slant on how they perceive the value and kind of properties of program design. Special populations is pretty standard because those guidelines come from generally ACSM or the medical community. But I can remember back in my bachelor's program, it was an exercise science, kinesiology program. And I studied a lot for the test on my own, and I took the NSCA right out of college. Actually, I think I was like a senior, maybe I was first year grad student, and I took it and passed it. But I had also spent a lot of time studying it, and my college curriculum was based on the NSCA guidelines. If I were to make a different choice, I might have gone with a different organization because I'm not a strength and conditioning specialist. I have no desire to be. And our college curriculum was very heavy into the CSCS. So I ended up studying for that and the NSCA CPT, which I ended up taking because I was like, I'm not a strength coach. I don't know, not my jam, not my speed, not going to do it. Totally interesting, but just not what my passion is. So I think keeping those things in mind and making sure that you take the time to look at what an organization offers. And I highly recommend getting their specific study materials. Their exam is going to be based on their study materials, with the exception of any questions that relate to national guidelines. So for example, like blood pressure screening. Those guidelines are very different now. And same thing with the pre-participation screening guidelines. It's a very different algorithm than it was even just an edition ago of the ACSM guidelines. So making sure that you get your organization study materials, I think, is pretty paramount to being able to be successful in their exam. And I think as far as how long it takes you to become successful, I think it depends on where you end up working. You know, like me right out of grad school, I worked for a facility in the place I went to school. So I had a whole list of clients just based on the fact that they offered personal training services there and I was a certified trainer. You want to go out on your own, you're going to have to factor in that you got to have a facility, or you got to figure out how you're going to train clients in your home or in their home. Are you a traveling trainer? So there's that whole business startup piece that detracts, not in a negative way, but that takes up some of that important time to be able to really develop a successful client list, because you've got to have the base, you've got to have the business to do it. And there's a big learning curve with that in a lot of ways. So it's going to depend very much on where you end up going and who you end up working for. Are you working for yourself? Are you working for somebody else? Are you kind of split down the middle? What does that look like? And again, you mentioned geography. Yeah, geography is going to play into it. Do you have a market for it or don't you? And if you have a market, how saturated is it? You have to look at things like how much are people willing to pay? Like what's the market value of your services? And how do you price yourself competitively to be able to get that client list and keep it going? So there are so many variables to it that I think the easiest way to say it is there's no one hard and fast rule. There's no guidelines when it comes to how long it's going to take you. Unfortunately, there's not.
Yeah, that's the take-home message. Surprise, surprise. And yeah, you're the one, Erin, reminded me of the demographic area, because I definitely started my career in a big, big city in San Diego where fitness is like booming, and even here in Bozeman, Montana, it's pretty active community. So I don't always think about the small town. And I just threw up a bunch of blogs because we have a ton of resources for those of you that like this show is kind of more about like how long does it take, but we've done so many shows and blogs about how to get there. So I tossed up your blog, starting a fitness facility in a small town. So those of you that are in a small town, and that maybe what is why you're watching the show, is because you need to be on the internet to connect. I threw that up there, and then I also put up how to get more fitness clients, an episode we did this summer. And I put up the 3-week challenge we just did. We did a 3-week Get More Clients challenge, and we had trainers reporting to us that they were actually getting more clients. So it worked. I mean, it was based off of strategies that have worked. So that was the idea, but you definitely got to put the work in. And a few of our trainers that reported their journey had some advice that I'll share with you. One said, every year, clientele should grow dependent on your marketing, training, and overall experience that is delivered. And that is, I don't know if I put it up. Ian Nimblett wrote a blog about that, about like the experience you deliver. I put his one blog up here for everyone. Successful trainers have standards. So he kind of talks about the client experience there. And then Michelle said, it's all about attitude, professionalism, and being genuine. So that's definitely a huge thing. We hear a lot about authenticity these days. And then Charles had said it depends on education and experience. So that's some of the tips that are coming from our trainers. We have on the NFPT blog, you can go to the business category or the marketing category, and you'll find lots of help with becoming successful. That's actually the tagline for our blog. It's a place where we try to groom successful personal trainers, because when you're successful, then the world gets healthier. But also, I wanted to point out on our blog, you need to actually type it in, or maybe we have a tag for it. Yeah, we have personal trainer spotlights. Nope, we got rid of the tag. So you got to just type in NFPT blogs / personal trainer spotlight. And we have all kinds of stories from trainers and their journeys, and you might be able to find someone you resonate with. But if you want to streamline that, just contact NFPT, reach out to us, tell us your story, tell us your situation, and we could probably connect you with somebody in the organization who's out there training and has a similar, area to you or demographic. Maybe we know someone in your area, and we'd be happy to connect you. We're a family philosophy organization, and we like to try and make it real personal.
Yeah, very true. And that's really our whole goal. And I think one of the goals with this show too, over the course of the last 59 episodes, is an extension of the blog and like helping bring some of that information in a more personalized way. But we do have a ton of resources out there, and they're all coming from people like Bev and I that have this experience and that have, made these, landed in these pitfalls and perils of trying to start your own business and then thus being successful. So use that as a resource. Contact us, reach out to us via Facebook. You can email us through the NFPT. We're pretty easy people to get in touch with.
Yeah, definitely reach out. And because each person's situation is unique. And so we're happy to, stay in touch with you. I see Ian jumped on here. He's one of our authors that he has done. If you want to follow a successful trainer, he's definitely one to keep an eye on. And he's been gracious enough to write a whole host of blogs for NFPT. So I threw one of those in the comments. And Billy says success isn't overnight. It's when every day you get a little better than the day before. It all adds up. That's from The Rock. Thanks, Billy. And Myra is on here. Myra is another one. She's actually a sleep coach, not a personal trainer, but she advocates for health and stress reduction and works with a lot of children and families. And she's always saying that too, little steps, small steps every day. Just do something small, just make a small change. And that's really some really great advice. So that's really what we had for you today. Oh yeah, unless Erin has something else to say or anyone has questions for us.
I was just going to say that although we do provide a ton of strategies and tips and tricks and things based off our own experience, strategies are only work if to the extent that you're willing to invest in using them. So they're not surefire unless you got to have grit. Bottom line, no matter whether you're tackling the question of how long it takes somebody to get a certification or how long it takes you to get a client list, how long does it take you to be successful? It's grit. That's like the number one, non-sacrificable component is you got to have grit and you got to do it. And even in the moments that it's tough. And so strategies are great, but you've got to put the work in, you've got to invest the time to be able to do it. And you've got to be willing to fail at some strategies that may not work for you. But yeah, I think the biggest component of success is just that grit.
Yeah, totally. So go out there today, do something for yourself, for your business. Hi, Holly and Billy. Thanks for another awesome quote. It took me 17 years, 114 days to become an overnight success. Lionel Messi. So there you go. It takes but certainly there's a light at the end of the tunnel. You can be certified within a couple months. You can have a full clientele within it looked like all the way from 8 months up to 2 years. So keep your part-time job in the meantime. And Ian says he agrees. Got to put the work in. So sweet. Well, unless you guys have any questions for us, we're going to wrap up episode 59. Next week is our last episode for now. It's going to be episode 60. I think we're going to talk about fat next week. That's what we were planning. We haven't gotten any suggestions. So unless you have like a burning topic that you want us to talk about, we're always here to answer questions. So, maybe next week we'll let the episode run a little bit or do some questions, or maybe we'll do a Q&A sometime in the new year. You might see us back on NFPT Live. We're just officially closing out our weekly Wednesday show for now. And we're going to work on some other content creation ventures. So stay tuned. We're not going to disappear. We're just going to change the way that we look on the internet.
Yeah, so we're definitely not going anywhere.
So we hope you found this helpful. If you did, please share it, put it out there. And there's a whole collection of NFPT live shows on YouTube. If you go to our YouTube page, if you want to watch some other episodes, and keep on making those small steps, and we'll see some of you next week.
Yes, thank you for being here with us, and thanks to all our trainers for sharing their stories.
Yes, thank you. That's a good one. Should definitely tag some of those folks afterwards.
Yeah. Is it not ending?
It's not letting me end the show.
Okay, so we're just sitting here like
smiling. I'm trying to end it, but it won't let me. Oh, here we go.